What's the big deal about watching a little porn every once in a while? That's what we're going to talk about today on The Beat. Okay, so the world will say there ain't nothing wrong with sneaking a little peek at a little porn every once in a while. Everybody's doing it. It's not hurting anybody. It's better than committing adultery and it's better than fornication. But today I want to share with you what I believe are 4 major problems that are associated with watching pornography. And the first is what I'm calling the inverse effect. The inverse effect says the more you look at pornography, the less your desire for your spouse will be. This is one that you can take to the bank. For example, even without thinking about it, you will subconsciously begin to compare your spouse to a fantasy world that you've conjured up in your mind through continued watching of pornography. And because they may not be able to replicate this fantasy world, what happens is slowly over time, you will see that your desire for your spouse actually starts to decrease. So why does this happen? It happens because our human nature is naturally attracted to that which is new. And so every time we watch pornography, there is a possibility that we are exposed to newness and variety and novelty, which could very well be the antithesis of what you're experiencing in your marriage with your spouse, which could ultimately cause your desire for them to go down. And so the second major problem associated with watching pornography is that it creates insecurities. Watching porn can create insecurities, first of all, within yourself, but also in your spouse. And so if you're watching porn, you will naturally, subconsciously begin to compare yourself to everyone that you see on the screen, leading you to believe that if I don't perform this way, if I don't sound this way, if I don't look this way, if I don't react this way, that I'm not going to be satisfying in the eyes of my spouse, leading me to feel insecure about how God has created me. On the flip side, if your spouse knows that you are watching porn, then it will naturally begin to create an insecurity within them because they will start to feel like they have to measure up, they have to compete, they have to perform, they're being compared to all the different fantasies that you have conjured up in your mind, which really isn't fair to them because now they are being compared to something that's not even reality. The third problem with watching porn is that it hinders your spiritual life. Watching porn is conducive to living in shame and secrecy, which is exactly where the enemy wants us in the first place. He actually also wants us to feel so ashamed and so guilty and so dirty that we feel uncomfortable even coming to God. We feel like our prayers aren't going to be answered. We feel like God is angry with us. We don't want to read our word. We don't want to come to church because we're afraid of what people may think about us. If they really knew what was going on in our lives, we are afraid to go to small group and share our souls with people in community. And so for the Christian who is continually convicted by the Holy Spirit, we cannot stuff our minds and our hearts with all this negative filth and then expect to create this intimate relationship with God that we so desire. And so the fourth and final problem associated with watching porn is that porn is an insatiable desire. One of the major problems with pornography is that it invites you, it entices you to think that you just need a little bit to get by, and then it enslaves you to the point where you can't seem to get free, and the more you do it, the more you want to do it. One of the problems associated with porn is that it oftentimes leads to other forms of sexual sin. In other words, we get tired of the fantasy that's in our mind, and eventually we want to take that fantasy and make it a reality. And so it can lead to other forms like fornication if you're single, or if you're married, adultery. If you're married and crazy, it can lead to swinging, it can lead to masturbation, or if not anything else, it could simply lead to coveting somebody else's spouse. Now, I know this is a very sensitive subject, so chances are either you're dealing with it or you know somebody very close to you that's dealing with it. And so I know in this video, I basically just surfaced some of the major problems that are associated with porn, but stay tuned on Friday where I provide some practical next steps that we can take to hopefully attack this difficult issue of pornography. If this video has been helpful to you, please don't forget to share it with someone else. If you haven't done so already, please please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time on The Beat.